What is the most difficult thing about campaign planning, and what role should marketing ops play?
The most difficult thing, in my opinion, is like coordination across all of the teams. I think especially as companies continue to scale larger and larger, maybe it's easier within like smaller companies. Um, but as you continue to grow, really everyone needs to stay on the same page, right? Like regarding goals, messaging, and execution can start to get tricky with larger teams, right? I also think it's really important for marketing ops to be looped in, like from the get-go.
Hmm.
Often I see MOPS teams being looped in like either towards the middle or towards the end. And we're kind of in scramble mode to like try to get everything up and running. So getting us looped in like as early as possible, I think definitely helps. And we can definitely also provide a lot of guidance. Um, I think what role we should play is very interesting, and also very important. I think there's several things that come to mind. One is technology enablement. So, first of all, making sure we have the right tech stack in place to be able to execute on all of these
Yeah.
campaigns. And maybe that will change and grow within time, but making sure we have that is really important. Second, I think is, analytics.
Mhm.
So key, being able to report on the data of the
Yeah.
campaigns, and understanding like how the campaigns are working is so important. Um, which really leads me to like the next one, which I think is process optimization. Um, I think marketing ops can help streamline a lot of the campaign processes, whether that's like just manual things that need to be like repeated or
Hmm.
just optimizing workflows. I think like MOPS has a strong influence on that, and that can really affect pipeline and revenue down the line. And I think lastly is attribution. Um, so, here at Workato, MOPS owns the entire attribution model, not just marketing. Like we own it for the entire company, which
Oh,
is very unique. Um, and not being paid on attribution is also really important. So there's no bias at all.
right.
So having marketing ops be like the single source of truth. And I feel like in most businesses, um, most of the attribution is marketing related attribution, especially because SDRs also sit under marketing for us.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, defining and implementing an attribution model and making sure that tracks throughout the campaign is very key.
We all love to talk about being data driven when it comes to campaign planning and, just doing better with our campaigns. But I think one of the most difficult parts about that is getting the right data at the right time and in the right place to
Mm.
actually be data driven. And I remember working at a company once, this
Hmm.
was years ago, and we would have both monthly reports and QBRs, our
Right.
quarterly business reviews for senior leadership. And it was so painful every time we had to create these reports because our biggest challenge was one, it was manual. So we were
Mm.
going into each platform, downloading spreadsheets. We had
Yeah.
an analytics guy who was taking that, putting it together. And then the second thing was the discrepancies with the data, because like Google Analytics might have said one thing and then Marketo said something else. And that was just a nightmare. And then there was a lag time with some of the platforms. So if we had to, let's say, report on the first and one platform doesn't have the most up to date data till the fifth, well, then we were
Mm.
always like having to explain, oh, well, yeah, like we think it might have been this, but there's a lag. And I really think what would have been helpful was having marketing ops almost like a coach. Like I like to think of it as you have your team and marketing ops is like the coach. And so each person on the team, the marketing team, they're doing their thing, social
Hmm.
media, page, email, whatever. But marketing ops is like that coach, and they're monitoring that, whether that be through tools, the automations that they could
Right.
create they have the skill set to really see the bigger picture because of those tools and, more of that oversight of all the tools to be that coach to actually help the players of the team know what's working and what's not. So I think for me, yeah, that's what I found most difficult, was definitely just wrangling all that data together at the right time, right place, and MOPS really has an opportunity to be that coach to help it.
It really just depends on like the campaigns that people have and making sure, is it a campaign or is it a campaign program? Or is it a program, like a marketing program versus a marketing campaign? So those two things I always ask up front. Is it going to be a continuous thing or is it going to be a one-off thing? And the reason I ask that is because it's how I set up the programs and campaigns in the systems, right? If I know it's going to be like a bigger program, I try to do a parent with child campaigns associated with it. So it's a better roll-up hierarchy for reporting purposes. But for me, I think the hardest thing for campaign setup is making sure is it actually worth it, and is it aligned with the business objective and goals. And you never want to lose focus of how does this tie with our big yearly objective, and how does it tie with our quarterly, and how does it tie with our monthly, and making sure you're strategic enough to understand, hey, do we have the right resources? Do we have the right budget? Are we utilizing all, our resources that we currently have? Do we have, if all our emails, are they being sent correctly? So for me, like, that's how I look at it. And that's how I'm doing it now, is I am using AI to get better ideas, to help prioritize, different types of channels and incorporate it into my campaign. Because it's going to be an omni-channel campaign, and those tend to do a lot better. And I think marketing ops can help with the campaign by mapping out the journey of the campaign, right? Understanding each step of that customer. What are those teams and individuals doing to support their flow to the end goal, which is, either get a demo, like a lot of people, or trying out the product, because it's a product oriented, like, it's more getting a free meme, right? Trying out the actual product or getting a POC as the end goal. So for me, I like to sit down with the event coordinators, sit down with the marketing coordinators, and walk them through this journey and start identifying which team member are being touched with the customer journey within that campaign. And that to me is the most critical thing of marketing operations, is understanding your customer journey flow, understanding where you can support them, being more proactive in mitigation and risk management in your campaigns.
I feel like the most difficult thing about campaign planning is the forecasting of what you think the results will be. And I say that because past performance is not always indicative of future performance. And you can try to identify who is the right audience and who is the right time, but sometimes it's just, there's some things that are going to fall flat, or there's some things that are outside of your control where it's going to wildly overperform what you expected, which is great. It's a great positive to have. But I feel like when you're trying to anticipate that and determining how you're going to allocate your budget or what you expect your results to be, there's a lot of things where marketing ops can support making those estimates or guesses as to what you think potential results may be, which comes from marketing ops being the ones closest to the data, the reporting, the analytics, past campaign performance, being able to look and see, hey, similar previous campaigns, who is the audience? What was the result? And what were the tactics that we used to get there? And then you can make educated guesses by taking that information and applying it against, hey, do we have new tactics or new tools available that we did not have in past performance? Or where are we seeing better results right now? And I think even as you're going along, there's opportunities for marketing operations to support the continued acceleration of that campaign. I think back to webinars that our teams have worked on in the past where they start with an initial set of audience members that they're targeting through different channels, but not getting the results. And they might come back to marketing operations, who are the folks who understand how the machine thinks, right? How lists are built in the different tools and technologies. Marketing ops may be the folks best equipped to help answer, hey, this is the audience that we built, but we think there's more that we're missing. What changes could we make to increase that audience and still be focused on that target? Or even provide strategic recommendations of, hey, we know that these are our decision makers, but maybe we want to include influencers in this because we're not getting where we need with decision makers as our audience, and we want to expand it a little bit. Let's look at potential influencers. And I think those are areas that marketing operations can help support in almost campaign planning in real time as well. And you know, some of the other tactics and technologies that you might have. Hey, we're targeting these people over here, but maybe email isn't their primary tool of choice. Maybe LinkedIn isn't their primary tool of choice. Or maybe these folks that we're looking to invite are VP and C-suite. Is an invitation to an event from an SDR or a generic marketing at email address going to be as effective as an email from a peer, a VP or CMO inviting them to an event? So I think those are things that marketing operations can also provide recommendations and suggestions on, or you know, A/B testing alternatives. Marketing ops folks are going to be best able to jump in there and take a look and help be able to set those up, monitor and track performance, and leverage that. And I think those things, tying those all back, of course, at the end to the ROI of those campaigns, because that becomes your baseline for your future campaign planning, is being able to understand the results and what worked here so that you can use that and apply it for the next go round.
The most difficult thing about campaign planning, in my opinion, is this idea of cross-channel coordination. And when I say cross-channel coordination, I mean thinking about, like, if we go from an overall marketing strategy, right? There are a lot of different levers and components that go into kind of this campaign planning machine. A lot of times, in my experience, people who aren't ops mindset or thought process, they're just thinking about the things. They're not thinking about how we're going to track the things. Are the things connected to everything we're doing? Can we report out on the things that we're doing? And then like what's the level of effort or like data that needs to be manipulated in order to represent it in the right way? And so when we talk about kind of like the planning strategy, I think marketing ops definitely needs to be involved when it comes to, hey, here's what we're thinking about doing. These are the channels that we're thinking about operating in, straight up in the planning session. So we can say, hey, we can do this, we can do that, or we can do this, but it's going to require us to like build this thing or update fields or like build an API integration to like bring stuff in. Because the last thing that you want to do is to have all these campaigns and all these things in motion and not have any data to like feed future campaigns, or go back to your CMO and be like, well, we did a thing, but we don't know like what the thing did.
I think we can always be a voice of reason in the room. I think everyone in marketing, no matter your role, all have strategic focuses and an outcome they're looking for. But when we're looking at hopefully a holistic ROI driven, I think marketing ops should be there. They're the closest to a lot of the data and the outcomes. So in that scheme, I think, you know, when you're sitting down, you're writing your hypotheses about the expected outcome of the investment, they should be the ones being called upon to sort of manage those readouts and to really help assess the impact of the full program that ran. So I think, like, again, we're the closest to the data. We can tell the data story really well. And I think in our role, yes, obviously we could do the whole PMOing of this. We can definitely make sure everything runs very smoothly. And PMOing, I'm saying like project management. So if we're PMing it, then we could probably do it from soup to nuts. But I think because each group has their own PM, it might be best for us to just focus on outcomes and ROI.
I've seen
It's
that
really
happen.
important also to pull people in at the right time. So
Yeah.
I've seen things where there needs to be like a new module created or
Mhm.
component created for the web team, and they have not enough time to create it and launch
Yeah.
it on the site. So,
Mhm.
and sometimes it's a challenge of whoever's project managing this program might not fully be aware of each
Mhm.
team's dependencies to deliver based on how they work and what maybe their technology has available. So to say
Mhm.
like I want to do a 5-week nurture program that has these classifications and these are the steps to advance them through the nurture and expect
Mhm.
it to be turned around in like a few days, like with again multiple email creatives and high crazy logic to go from A to B to C, like you need to be realistic and make sure at the planning stage, all the stakeholders are in the room to just say, okay, you want this, and for me to deliver this, it's going to take X amount of time because this is just how
Mhm.
long it takes us to make it. Expect my deliverable within this time range. Again, I think there's people assume because the technology is there that it's going to be able to just do what is asked of it. And a
Mhm.
lot of times folks don't realize that if it's not currently available, it needs to be built. And building takes time.
And
And
testing. Mhm.
also like we assume because I don't know, Google or Amazon's doing it, that the data is available for us to do the same type of thing. Like, well, based on their visit to the website and they clicked on this specific item, shouldn't you be able to send this? Like, well, hopefully we built it out that way that it could do that. But sometimes no, sometimes we don't actually have that data and we can't execute what you're saying. So being in that earlier planning stage is important. I think that's again one of those challenges is that assumption that because the technology's here, it's just a plug and play, just run, versus like, oh my gosh, we have to actually build, test, make sure it works, make sure the user experience
Mhm.
is okay. Do you know how many stories I've heard about like tech builds mess ups where like nurture campaigns are on a cycle and sending out all the time, or all the
Mhm.
crazy stuff. So like to make sure it's working is also super critical.